It's Hauser. Wings Hauser. I mean, do I actually look like some tall, tan, golden boy who runs up and down the beach in slow motion in tiny, tight trunks, huh? Is that what I look like? Wrong, huh? Does this look like Pamela Anderson?
No, sir.
No, sir, what?
No, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Hauser.
And now, our feature presentation.
Look, you don't like the company. You can always wait for Morgan in the hall. Be better if we all try to get along?
You're the shrink, right?
Psychologist.
Oh, a psychologist. Huh? I'll tell you, pretty lady, I had enough of you people since they pulled my badge to last me a lifetime. So why don't you take your shock therapy and your questions that can't be answered, and you go wait in the hallway, all right, honey?
Hey, fella.
Cool it. Why don't you shut up, boy?
Hey, I don't take to having ladies talk to that way.
You want something? Come on, Abe. Come on.
Whoa, big guy.
Hey, let's go right here. Come on, get a little bit. Come on, let's go. Come on, take some. Come on.
Big guys, come on.
That's trash.
Hello, and welcome to That's Cool, That's Trash, the podcast where we watch a psychotronic movie online, then get together on Skype to break down the crazy. I'm Matt Howell, and I'm joined today by some good friends, Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
And Pete.
Hello there.
So, thank you guys for joining me today. We're doing a special episode, The Show's Back from the Dead, for Wings Hauser Month, which is always a cause to get together and celebrate and appreciate the good things in life. And Pete, you were on your first episode last year.
Yeah, about this time, probably.
For
right?
Which film?
It was the Norman Mailer one.
Oh, Tough Guys Don't Dance.
Yeah, no wonder I couldn't remember the title.
Which is one of our top 10 most downloaded episodes.
Really?
Yeah. So your first appearance was a hit.
Yeah. I
as kids say. Yeah, and we've been dead. I've been focusing on a comics podcast I've been doing since then. And I only came back to do a special episode for Wings Hauser's birthday in December with Joe and Jacob, who are other guys that appreciate Wings Hauser's charms and allures. So, Kyle, you were also on last year. You were on with Jacob. We talked about that timely, unfortunately, timely movie Skins.
Yeah.
Gang Boys?
Gang Boys.
Title. Which was a great story that Wings wrote and directed and starred in about he was a alcoholic washed-up cop whose gay son had been beaten by skinheads in L.A., and he came back from exile in Baja and trained and wore his Oregon State Beavers workout gear and trained to get in shape and took on the Nazis.
Writes itself.
That's right.
It really does. And our takeaway from that was that it ended when it was starting. Kind of like we really wanted to see Wings actually crack a bunch of Nazi skinhead skulls, and it was kind of just a big James Bond ending where they're invading Spectre headquarters, and then it's just over.
Yeah. So
everybody
comes out in the street, gearing up for big, and then nothing happens. Fizzle.
Yeah. Kyle's doing a visual of a plastic penis.
But it was incredibly evocative.
So thank you for joining me again for Wings Month. This time we're going to be talking about something a little different. I don't think we've actually done a TV offering of his because if you've looked at his IMDb credits, he's done a ton of TV work.
Deep.
This was actually a TV movie from 1985 called Command 5. And I think anyone would be naive if they didn't think this was an attempt to launch a series. It is very much a origin story for a A-Team type action serialized adventure on network television. But unfortunately, that did not get picked up, or fortunately, depending on your perspective on culture. So one thing I was hoping to kind of set the stage with, some of our audience are from different ages, so maybe they aren't old folks like us who vividly remember 1985. This aired on August 7th, 1985. So I was kind of just digging around a little bit, just to kind of set the stage here, like Casey Kasem would on the countdown. You'd hear, a big hit was "And She Was" by the Talking Heads. A little strip about a boy and his stuffed tiger launched called Calvin and Hobbes in November, which captured American hearts. one of my all-time favorite syndicated strips. Margaret Atwood's Handmaid's Tale, the novel, was published and then became a bloated Hulu series many decades later. And an all-time favorite of a good friend of the show, Joe, Back to the Future was in theaters this summer. So if you can remember where you were and when you were when you saw Back to the Future, I do.
Yep.
This was when you could have seen this on TV, Command 5. So I remember vividly, Grandpa Howell took me to see Back to the Future, and I was almost 9, and I sat through that film riveted.
Oh, it's jacked.
Mind blown, hair blown back. Walked out of there, it's like, Grandpa, was that not the coolest movie ever made? And he said, that was the biggest piece of garbage I've ever seen in my life. And he rarely swore, and I think he actually cussed.
Wow.
He disliked it so much. And I was just crestfallen. But that's just a little side memory there.
I saw it with my buddy Ross, and we had our skateboards with us. And as the cars were leaving the parking lot of the theater, he grabbed the bumper of a car and got himself towed out of the lot.
Wow,
oh, yeah.
In front of like 30 people. They're like, oh, yeah, I just saw it.
Yeah, Ross.
Yeah.
Ross. They all knew his name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think what else was going on then. A young basketball player was the MVP newcomer rookie guy, and his name was Michael Jordan.
What happened to him?
Didn't do much.
No, I don't think so. I think he did Space Jams.
Yeah, he did some cartoon movies.
Live Aid, if you remember the Live Aid concert for charity, that happened in July. New Coke, a horrible campaign, a complete blunder, happened that summer. World news. Who cares about Spain and Gibraltar?
Yeah, that's the main thing I remember from 85. The whole Gibraltar thing.
And Nintendo home entertainment system was launched, which changed the home. I mean, Atari did, obviously, but I think Nintendo stepped up a bit. So that's kind of setting the stage culturally where we were when Command 5 happened to us. Did any of you guys see this when it happened?
Nope.
Okay. Because I feel like if I had seen a preview for this, I would have been up in front of the TV with a bowl of popcorn.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I asked you guys to do a little bit of homework to just kind of set the stage. The 80s were a huge period for action movies. I guess my question was when I was watching the opening credits for this film, and by the way, folks, if you haven't seen this, you can watch it on YouTube for free. Just search for Command 5, 1985, and you'll find it. I was watching the opening credits and seeing this all kind of militarized, hard-on porn thing, which was going on in the 80s, and I just wanted to know, like, how did we get here? Like, if you just showed an alien this opening credits of this TV movie, and they said, I don't understand, you would say, me neither. But then they would say, how did we get here? What would you say? Kyle, start us off.
I was kind of looking at this as a timeline a little bit, and I started working backwards from 1985. But at the very back, like, I stopped at like 7 Samurai Magnificent 7, like this idea of like ragtag, like you bring this group of people together to form some sort of group that takes on an impossible mission, right? Timeless arc.
I stopped at Dirty Dozen, but you were right.
That's
to go
right
back.
where I was.
You were right.
But then that's exactly where I went next, was Dirty Dozen, like Wild Bunch. When was Great Escape? Like somewhere right in
68, I want to say 67.
Okay, so that would have been right at the Dirty Dozen Wild Bunch era. Then I went to Kelly's Heroes. And then, then the other place I went was like end of Vietnam War, just culturally.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I was way off.
Oh, which one?
Great Escape was
63. Oh, yeah. Shoot, that's, wow.
I guess the color threw me, but it was a big budget affair, so that makes sense.
Matt, I think you and I have talked about this a couple of times, like the idea of like, and this is not an original idea by all means, but like the idea of like we didn't win the Vietnam War. And so there's like this giant lag of like trying to build up like some sort of like military morale and like trying to place ourselves as being some kind of a victor. I
think that's a great commentary. I think also the Cold War was at its peak and it was about to end in 89. When the Berlin Wall came down, the official, supposed end of the Cold War. We've realized since that it never really ended. It just went underground, essentially, or covert. But I wonder how much of that is just Reagan I don't know, just that kind of pro-military, like you're saying, like rebounding from our first crippling loss as a military world force. And a bunch of our audience were Vietnam vets too, right? I mean, I think that's a factor. I think you're spot on though with like the Dirty Dozen and like that Great Escape, to kind of getting the band together thing. Pete, why don't you pick it up and do your take on this?
Well, I think, when I saw just the thumbnail for it on the YouTube, this is interesting. I immediately thought, oh, is this an A-Team thing or is it a Magnum thing? Like those are the two poles of sweet TV shows when I'm in fourth grade, right? It's Thursday night. That's what I'm down. I mean, or Buck Rogers. I mean, that's a different branch, right? And so is it laid back down and out guy with kind of a dark past who helps people out, right? So we got your Magnum, your Rockford Files, your High Tide, your Simon & Simon.
Right.
I mean, all gold.
And those stem from National Command and the Continental Op and Paul Newman's Harper.
And that pulls in your, post-Vietnam, like it's a convenient backstory for anyone to give them depth, right?
Yeah.
And you finally, second season, you can have the one flashback episode where they're going to be in camo.
Yeah.
And it'll be sepia-toned for like a couple scenes, right? But some guy comes back, and shows up and it causes, he was happy to see him at first and then it goes bad because that guy never really got over it. And anyway, I won't write that episode right now, but then the other branch is the A-Team branch, right? Which this was clearly the A-Team branch.
It's a template. But I also thought about SWAT. I don't know if you guys ever watched SWAT, but I saw reruns when I was a kid. I've never seen SWAT.
It's not good.
Okay.
I mean, it's
a network show.
Yeah, it was just cops, but it's a SWAT team, right? And so they had a sweet van. They had
like these
better
special weapons and
they had
tactics.
better guns. Yeah, but you can kind of imagine what it's about. But then I also thought about actually, I guess this relates to your sort of rah-rah U.S. military thing, which was, did you ever see The Soldier? No, also not a great movie.
Who's in it?
I should look it up. Kevin
Sorbo?
No. No one's super famous, but I remember seeing Siskel. My parents and I, we always watched Siskel and Ebert.
Ken Wall?
Ken might be. Yeah.
The guy, not the guy from that TV show.
I'm going to have to look this up. Anyway, you can look it up while I'm talking.
I'm not doing that.
I'm doing it. I saw the review for it, and Siskel and Ebert this is the biggest, creepiest piece of shit I've ever seen in my entire life. And I was like, God, are we watching the same clip? Because I thought this looks awesome. There's this scene with this guy jumping off on skis and then rotating in the air while firing a machine gun and then killing everyone that's around him, and then landing on a table that people are eating at and right through. I mean, it's
holy shit.
Yeah, it's pretty, balletic.
It's like Hot Dog, the movie meets Rambo.
Yeah, and I think the real thing that drew it together was all the little mini submachine guns, just everywhere all the time. And that was the thing that I noticed with this is, whenever I remember seeing the pilot of the A-Team, staying up to watch the pilot of the A-Team and being jacked, but being super bummed because I got there, I'd seen the ad for it, so I knew they were ex-special forces. I knew they helped people out. I'm like, this is all the way it should be for a show. But I thought it would be cool, but then I realized when I started watching it, they have M16s, but everything was semi-automatic, no actual machine guns. And I was as a kid, I was like, oh shit, they wouldn't let them use real machine guns. So is it going to be the whole series that they're going bang, 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 bang? That's going to suck. And then when they started building makeshift stuff to actually get rid of the bad guys, I wasn't into that either. I wanted weaponry. I wanted modern weaponry.
Not welding.
It wasn't happening. Anyway, so this show, they saw that flaw. Right, and they really fixed it.
They did, so
in a big way.
I think that it's probably safe to say this aired theatrically in non-U.S. markets. I'm sure this was actually screened, in Japan or South America or something like that. That stuff was always repurposed for theatrical, just get extra ticket sales.
Here we go. Soldier, 1982.
1982, starring
Tangerine Dream did the music. Holy crap! Ken Wall, you nailed it. You called it.
Yeah. Well.
KGB, plutonium, CIA. Again, right this film.
I want to see that. Okay, so this doesn't really fall into the Commando Schwarzenegger thing, but I feel like that's kind of like the wisecracking, like James Bond, like the first time James Bond and Dr. No killed somebody and said something funny. I feel like I love them. I love those wry jokes, but they ruined action cinema for the next like 30 years, in my opinion. Like, I mean, it's a joke now. You can't even reference it without it being like a sketch comedy thing or some meta postmodern thing. I guess we just vomited a bunch of 80s political military entertainment stuff. Kyle, did I miss anything before I kind of talk about this specific project?
No, I think you're right on point. One other point I want to just touch on is that you brought up Reagan, and also like he was like the big tough on crime guy, right? So it was like the fact that you could create like a Command 5, like bring this group together to fight domestic crime, was like just felt like it was very much of that time. Where like the A-Team was like anti-government and hiding from the government.
Oh,
like this
nice point.
This group
nice
was
distinction.
like government sponsored, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Maybe that's why they had the actual machine guns.
Yeah. So this is a great way to kind of pivot into that. So Command 5, the premise of this film proposed series, is that there is a unit of 5 people led by this guy named Blair Morgan, who Captain Blair Morgan. I'm so sorry. Who seems like he's kind of a action junkie. He can't get enough danger, and I couldn't quite figure out why he's not actively in service anymore. But the idea here is that they want to create a domestic strike team that can respond to internal crises. So we get to see what one of these would be. But they even, to the point that they even say like, oh, now we're based in St. Louis because that is the most central urban hub that could most quickly reach every urban area in the country.
And that actually brings up a question like who is the they that created it? I mean, was it St. Louis? Did St. Louis, Missouri? I was wondering, did they decide, you know what we're going to do? We found some extra budget. And we're going to create a commando team that can go anywhere in the country outside of our jurisdiction and shoot stuff up. And I think, yes.
So I think, so we have some clips. One of the things that is a hallmark of this type of film is that these guys are, the cliche cop thing, like, he's a good cop. He just plays outside the lines, whatever. So like this totally does that. And so when we meet the leader, Captain Morgan Blair, he's walking into like this. He's 2 hours late because fuck it, right? The film literally starts with him skydiving, jumping out of a plane, and him being watched by military personnel like through binoculars, saying like he's got to open a chute. He better open a chute soon, or the crosswinds could just send him flying and smash him into the ground. And he keeps going. And then the camera's showing you, he's just plummeting down towards the desert earth. And then he finally pulls it, like, looks like 100 feet and lands safely. And he's like, what are we all worried about? But, they're like, oh, well, you're 2 hours late for this big meeting. And
then how was he 2 hours late when they sent him a helicopter? Like, was the helicopter in traffic, or was he just late to catch the helicopter?
He fell from so high. You're not getting how badass this guy is.
No, I'm really not.
So he walks into this boardroom of stuffy, bureaucratic politicians, and we find out they start arguing. And basically, this seems to be a federation of states that have large population centers. So, like, someone says, like, basically, like, we didn't even want you. And someone else says, well, Baltimore, we wanted you.
Oh, okay.
And then someone else says, well, what do you think, Detroit? And so they're all kind of like talking around like, okay, so they're all hiring, they're putting their budget in. Oh, God, this is so pro-Reagan, Jesus Christ. So America is so crime-ridden and broken that they want to hire a mercenary, essentially, that's sanctioned by the federal government to come in and just be the Avengers.
To kill.
Yeah. But only for America. God, that's gross.
Damn it, Morgan, this isn't our first meeting. When are you going to get it through your head? You didn't hire us. We hired you. We hired you because Navy intelligence said you were the best. Because the FBI and the CIA and those stupid computers, they just love you. Well, I don't love you, mister. You're here because I was outvoted.
Then I guess the wedding's off, Inspector.
Hey, come on, wait a second. Take it easy. Now, maybe it was a mistake to try and pick your people for you, but you have to understand, we've been working night and day trying to put this thing together.
Put what together? Some trick way to work behind my back? You worried about crime in the streets? You worried about anarchy? That sooner or later this country's going to drown in blood, drugs, and violence?
I never said this country was heading towards revolution.
Fortunately, this country's in better shape than you and your committee.
Morgan, the gentleman from Baltimore may not love you. I do. How's Detroit feel?
Mr. Morgan has my vote. Just what is your reason, Mr. Morgan, for turning down the men we selected?
You didn't select anything. The book selected them. Height, weight, IQ, years on the force, absolute obedience, short haircuts, short imaginations. Poster boys. You don't like me, take your federal money and get somebody better. But I'll tell you what. You want to put together a special squad that's going to kick hell out of violent crime in this country, that's going to go into jurisdictions that don't have the money, equipment, or skill to fight back. You better forget your book. That or forget me.
All right, Mr. Morgan, it's your war. Pick your own troops.
Okay, long clip, so that is loaded.
Yeah. I actually understand the show I saw a little bit more now, actually hearing it again. So that
volume increased?
Yeah, that is good. I do like that. America's good, but America's in trouble. But America's still good.
We're drowning in drugs and blood, but
we're in better shape.
We're better than you think we are.
Yeah.
Everybody wins.
I mean, these are complex scenarios.
Yeah.
Right. They don't try and dumb it down.
So I think that we really set the table there. But Kyle, will you just do the elevator pitch? So you just snarfed about, 4 lines of Coke. You got in an elevator at NBC or wherever the hell this happened, and you see Gary. And Gary is the guy who has the purse strings. And you have a great idea.
Okay.
Pitch this.
Gary, hold on. Hold the elevator. I am going to blow your mind. We are going to make millions of dollars because A-Team, super hot. You like explosions? I love explosions. I'm going to offer you 35 explosions in the first 15 minutes of the show that we're going to make together about a commando group that just kicks ass on like hippies and people of color and, all the stuff that people don't like right now. Like, that's what we're going to do together. We're going to make millions. And I've got the guy that will send us over the top. His name is Wings Hauser. Let's do this. We doing this? Let's do this.
So I'm not clear. Is there any sex here? Because I'm not hearing any sex. I'm hearing a bunch of sweaty bullet guys.
Well, there's going to be like a really, I'm glad you reminded me, because there's going to be this one, like a really good looking, like brainy, but also badass girl lady who's a psychiatrist. She's super smart, but she's also really good looking and she loves to blow shit up.
Yeah, she's a gun nut.
Sounds good. My kids are really big fans of Goonies. I love that guy that played Sloth. Can we get him in here?
We can get him. He's done with that. He's done with that movie, and you won't even recognize him. And he's big. You need a big dude. Good call. Yeah, let's get a big dude.
Okay. So, I'm sold.
Yeah.
And I didn't even do the Coke.
Kyle did a really good job there, by the way.
Yeah. So we hit a bunch of. Thank you, Kyle. That was a great pitch.
Yeah, sure.
Ding.
I'll call you.
So this does. If you go up in the 80s, you definitely know a bunch of like archetypes of these misfit ragtag groups of people that do stuff, right? There's always the specialists. So these are in the clip that we played, you heard Blair Morgan saying, your robots, your computer programs picked out the best ones, but I know what we really need. And so he has types he's looking for. Pete, like what are the types that we see here, like, in this 5?
Well, he definitely wanted people that have, skills, specialties, right? But he also wanted, like, different emotional problems. Right? Yeah. He's like, and I actually feel him on this. Extreme situations, right? He's going to need,
These are like why drones were made.
Yes, exactly, right? So there was the psychologist gun nut lady, right? Which, when we meet her, she's a regular police officer, but she's on some sort of, firing range, like a fake city, with machine guns. I wouldn't think that Portland Police Department probably has that. But wherever she was, they had that. Yeah, you'd be surprised. And then, I forget who was, the Demolition Derby, right? I don't think this character was actually necessarily in the show. I just think the scene of the Demolition Derby was in the show. and they needed a reason for that scene to be in the show, and hence the character, right? I mean, yes, you need the driver, right? There's somebody who's always, all about the wheels, right? And that's who this guy was. But that was when I watched this with AIM, and when they came to the demolition derby scene, she's like, "So you like this, right?" I'm like, "Yes." I mean, we're like 5 minutes in, and we've got parachutes, we've got helicopters, we've got explosions. We've got demolition derby,
a Texan demolition derby driver.
Yeah,
and so that guy, folks, was played by the guy that played the dad in Boy Meets World.
Oh my God, it was.
Wow.
He was also in Deathbed, The Bed That Eats, which we covered on this show, but I think he's most famous for Boy Meets World. Bed That Eats People, I think is his subtitle.
Thanks to you, I saw some of that, yeah.
So he's there.
Yeah.
So let's just play a little bit. Sorry, I don't want to jump into your thing, but let's play some of her, we get the getting the band together, right? So in the Blues Brothers, Jake gets out of jail and they have to go and find all the members of the band and convince them to come back with them and do one big gig to save, blah, blah. So that's whatever. But I think modern audiences might most recognize this sequence as in Suicide Squad, when Amanda Waller gives the captain the carte blanche to select his team. And you see these little vignettes showing each person, like Harley Quinn, trying to fuck Batman over with Joker, and you see whatever. This is kind of like that. So we get to see how misfitty these people are. So here's the shrink.
All right, what's the deal? Who's jumping from what bridge? Or is today's job to talk some psycho out of starting a race ride?
Oh, no, today happens to be a very special day. It's the day that I get rid of you. I bought a psychologist, not another street cop.
And I joined a police force, not a medical center.
Had you done so, they would have kicked you out. You're the only shrink I know that conned a sniper into dropping his gun by offering to play Russian roulette.
It worked, didn't it?
This is Blair Morgan. Of all the police psychologists in the country, he picked you. It just goes to prove he needs one.
The music.
Dun, 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 dun. And we need to talk about that music.
We do.
But any reactions to that's kind of the mode here, right?
With each of them, it's that basic scene.
The captain wants to get rid of this person. You are a liability. You're too crazy. You're too whatever. And you're perfect for Command 5, right? So they're kind of like their own Suicide Squad, I guess. I think the guy that plays the demolitions weapons expert, again, he was a football player who kind of transitioned into acting, and he played Sloth in Goonies, and he's in this. He's really in it. When we meet him, Pete, describe how we meet this character.
Well, it's gonna be hard because I still don't understand the scene. So, he was driving a car,
yes,
through some buildings and pressing a button and blowing them all up,
and listening to
Beethoven, was he not?
Yes.
But what I don't understand was, was he trying to create an explosive obstacle course for himself? When I watch, I was like, is he testing his driving skills, his avoidance skills? No, I think he just wanted to be in with it.
So this clip I have here actually explains what he was supposed to do and what he did.
Okay. See?
So we see him drive through a bunch of empty houses and just detonating a bunch of explosives, just blowing up, when you see that stock footage of the A-bomb being tested in the middle of the desert, and just houses with mannequins and it's that kind of thing. So here's what happens afterwards.
Signed papers right here.
You had authorization to get rid of one case of old explosives, not to blow up a whole test site.
Sir, I've got to be able to express myself. Don't you understand that? You ever been on a bomb squad? You know how much tension builds up? These big hands trying to take tiny wires off timing devices, little detonators. And each wire you pull, you wonder whether it's going to go or not, and you up with it. Boom! Kersh! Boom! Grr! You gotta let the tension out somehow, Lieutenant. Might as well make a symphony out of it.
I told you, Looney Tunes. He makes sense to me.
Yeah. In my notes, I wrote, explosion sounds with his voice. Right? Yeah, I was...
So there's Misfit number 2. And the voice you're hearing at the end of all these clips is Captain Blair Morgan saying, like, yeah, he's not a good fit for your department, but guess what? He's
perfect.
Yeah, so the reason we're all here is Wings Hauser. Let's talk a little bit about Wings as far as, like, for instance, we were talking about the Vietnam thing. Did you guys know that he wrote the screenplay for Uncommon Valor, starring Gene Hackman?
He did?
Yes, he says he did.
No, I had no idea.
He wrote and sold that before he was very big. He was in soap operas before that, but that was one of his first big things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm impressed.
Kyle, talk to us about how we meet Wings. So we've met the demolition derby, the wheelman. We've met the weapons expert demolition guy. We've met the shrink with the heart of shrapnel. Let's talk about Wings.
Yeah, I think that we meet Wings in his local drinking establishment, wherever he's from. And he's at the bar, kind of kicking back with his typical Scotch and milk.
What they said.
Where is he from?
They said you can go back to San Pedro when the first time they have to come a dust up.
Oh.
Okay.
Morgan says you can go back to your bar in San Pedro.
Yeah. Hang out with the Minutemen.
Yeah. So he's so
probably knows him. He probably knows my plot. I'm guessing.
He's probably roughed him up.
Probably.
Fucking corn dogs.
And a couple of I'm assuming that there are other cops come in and they start nope, just street thugs, as we don't know. I put too much on that. So, two random guys walk into the bar and start flipping him shit about being too aggressive and going after some drug dealers that were selling drugs to, like, young girls. Is that right? Like 12-year-old girls, something like that?
Yeah.
High schoolers, yeah.
They said it in a taunting way that was completely contrary to
it was confusing.
The spirit of the words.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, you're a cop, and you got a little rough with these drug dealers selling cups to high school or selling drugs to high schoolers. Like,
yeah, are you? Where are you coming from with that?
Or anti?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
So he does what he does. Coburn, is that his name? Coburn. So Coburn beats the shit out of these two guys, and then when he's on the way out, then Captain Morgan comes in. And is like, whoa, buddy.
Yeah,
you're my guy. Let's get this done.
Captain Morgan.
Yeah.
Does it with spice.
So it's interesting because he is the least explosive, like the least grandiose,
right?
In mode, but the most interesting to me. I mean, he's Wings, so he's going to take this thing. He's finding a slight role and saying, "How do I punch this up and make it big and fun?"
Yeah,
because he's Wings, and so we find that here. So let's play a little bit of him ordering his drink, which he apparently is his regular beverage, which I was going to have tonight, but I just couldn't make myself do it.
Hey, set up a couple of beers. Oh, well, Hero Coburn. How are you then, Jack? Never was too sociable, was he? No. Hey, listen, pal, we're on your side. Any bum that beats the hell out of a pusher that sells drugs to poor, innocent, young high school kids, oh, that's our kind of cop.
Yeah, suspended.
They took away your gun, huh, Jack? Now you got nothing to play with. So why don't you just try playing with this? Come on, play. Come on, get out! Come on! Hey, relax! Shut up!
$5?
Yeah, in my pocket.
I got an expensive cleaners.
Get out of my sight!
I'm sorry.
Buy you a drink?
Why?
I like the show. You want to take it on the road?
Excuse me.
Your bosses are going to hang you out to dry, Jack.
So you're the guy who's been checking up on me at the station, right? Unbelievable.
Go on, walk. You'll be alone like you always have been. No backup, no support, no nothing.
Look, who the hell do you people think you are? Playing with my life.
Join up with me. I'll give you all the support you want. Maybe more than you can handle. How about that drink?
constant companion. I'm a confirmed bachelor. So
those thugs were criminals, and they liked that he was suspended and didn't have his gun.
I thought they were cops. I thought that was a cop bar, and somehow because he was suspended, I don't understand why they would fuck with him though. Because he sounds like the cop that we've been trained for the last 15 years to really like, which is Harry Callahan, which is like, these guys were selling drugs to teenagers, and you went a little too far. You beat the shit out of them.
I think I read too. I thought they liked that he went too far because it got him suspended, so that now they thought they could take him because he doesn't have his gun.
Oh,
but he's the knife guy, so that didn't go well.
Yes. So one thing that doesn't translate through the audio is that in this skirmish, the two guys jump him. He breaks. What does he do? But he has a spring-loaded switchblade in his
that's right
on his wrist, which I love. So I already like this guy, but I'm curious about what is his role. Right, we have these clearly defined roles from the other 3 members that have been recruited. What is Jack Coburn's role?
I thought he was just wild card.
Yeah, I think he was particularly antisocial. Right, he was the one that really couldn't mesh with anybody. That was his role, was to have knives and not like people.
So
that's all I got.
So that's a fair take. So Pete doesn't drink alcohol. Kyle, what do you make of this odd choice of his go-to drink of being Scotch and milk, served in a highball glass? Up.
When I first heard it, I thought that they invented a ridiculous drink to try to give him like a little bit more edge. And so like I stopped and was like, is that a real drink? And then looked it up. I was surprised that there are many versions of this drink out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a bizarre character choice. Like, let's see if we can make him a little bit more odd by giving him a drink that nobody in the world would order. Who would order that in a bar?
So the odd thing is that the bartender's response is, I used to drink those. Now I just drink beer. So my take, having seen a bunch of Wings movies, he typically in his films, I think if he has any leeway, it's not scripted, he's ad-libbing, which is a lot of the time, he just orders a whiskey in a bar. So I was trying to figure out why he chose this or why it was in the script. And I think it's implied that he has a substance abuse issues. And that might lead into his rage stuff that he acts out what got him suspended.
Well, he cracks a beer a few times when he's nervous.
He cracks a beer on the mission, when they're in the thick of it. So I thought, is this like a weird, really poor way of saying, he drinks so much that he has an ulcer, like his rage and his alcoholism. So he drinks scotch still, but he drinks it with milk to kind of cancel out. Yeah, to soothe the stomach.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they just didn't express that very well in the
I'm going to go with you on that. I'm sold.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. And I didn't really think about the veiled substance abuse issues till you brought that up. I think there was another reference to him sleeping in one morning.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he has a dust up. Once they all join together, they go out and celebrate. And which is a great, we should Google.
Interesting.
Because the demolitions guy, Sloth, is playing some video game, and he gets approached by 2 prostitutes who are trying to get him to use their, to hire them for their charms. And he's like, you know what? I just want some quarters because I'm so close to beating the world record. And the psychiatrist woman steps in, and it gets violent, and then their pimp steps up and gets involved as well. And there's a good bar fight sequence. And I think we should play some of that.
And of course, once, as soon as we had the meet up, they trained, now they're in a bar, you're like, oh, it's the bar fight scene. You see it coming from.
Yeah. So they've had one day together.
Yeah.
They all get together and go out to a really cliche, Southern California obstacle course. There's a wall, some empty buildings you can blow up with grenades if you want to. You need to see each one go through their own thing and do it their own way, which for them forces that they don't follow the rules. So the big guy who is an ex-football player actor, he approaches the uneven bars and just kind of grabs one and just kind of swings and then walks through. Like, he doesn't even care.
Then knocks down the wall rather than climb over
and then
it.
he just pushes the wall down instead of climbing the climbing wall.
Yeah.
Because he thinks outside the box. I want to play a little bit of the bar fight with the pimp and Wings' character.
Nobody gonna mess with my ladies. Get away with it.
Hey, beautiful.
Did I hear right?
Either you put the bottle down or I'll put you down permanently.
And I like that he has a proclivity for just going for like the broken bottle. Like that's just like that's a true like drunk badass. Like you get in
done this a million times. Yeah.
You break this in half and then you just put it on a cookie cutter in someone's abdomen.
Yeah.
Just pull out some guts.
Here we go again.
So I don't remember why that leads to a brief falling out, but basically Captain Morgan says, "Hey, Coburn, if you can't play by the rules, go back to San Pedro and drink yourself to death. Otherwise, I'll see you at 5:30 in the morning for more training." And he does show up the next day, a little bit late, just to make a point to save face, I think.
Yeah,
but it was just in time.
It was just a little bit of time
because
right
because the van.
The van.
You got to introduce
talk
the
about
van.
The van, and we need to talk about the music and the composer.
Yeah.
Gosh, you guys, I got to say it. When I see Lalo Schifrin's name on a soundtrack, like I actually have high expectations. And I didn't hear him at all on this.
No, I didn't either.
I did.
Well, only some of the percussion.
I heard.
There you go.
So one of my favorite, I love this guy. And one of my favorite works of his is the Dirty Harry, the first Dirty Harry film soundtrack.
Yeah.
Which Kyle and I were really into when we were roommates in college. And I actually heard sad, distant, faint echoes of it in this. And I actually made clips to display this. So in Dirty Harry, there is an analog for the Zodiac Killer, which is called Scorpio. And he's looking at women like through binoculars. He's got a sniper rifle. And so you get this music that kind of is uneasy with his woman's vocals. And it's got uneven rhythm, kind of stop and starts. Like it's kind of his mind. And then when it kicks in and starts rocking, that's like when he gets enraged and gets like he wants to kill. So let's listen to that clip.
Really good.
And then here is where I heard sad, lazy echoes, which I don't blame him for. I think that it's he was striving to meet the project. Let's put it that way.
Nick, Coburn.
Right, that's like the Kid Bop version of the Dirty Harry soundtrack.
Yeah. What's interesting is, and I wonder, like, was it all him, or did other stuff get added, or like, because there's definite like '80s synth tropes that you don't associate with him that are in the opening stuff for sure.
Yeah, I was wondering if he just, by the nature of his stature, got like top billing as the composer for the opening and ending credits, and the rest was. But I think that he did that, unfortunately.
Yeah. He's probably trying to stay current.
Yeah. Well, that was
just 85 is not the time to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so I think at this point we've got the band together. So this is the first half of the pilot.
Yeah.
So now we have. I forgot to mention, Kyle. Like when I was in the elevator with you, and you were pitching this to me, and I was getting really excited about it.
Yeah.
I was like, but is there a racist, like I don't know, like a Mexican Manson?
Oh God!
And you say Delgado?
Delgado?
Yeah. And I don't know, man. We'll call him. I don't know, Delgado.
So for me, the first half of the film of like meeting the characters and getting the band together was awesome.
Yeah.
once we got into the what the first caper is, which would be part 2 of the 2-parter, because if this got syndicated, this would have been part 2 of a 2-parter.
Oh yeah, good point.
I got significantly less interested.
Yeah, I know. I was like, it was hitting on all cylinders beginning, and then it, bit of a downshift for sure. Although I remember seeing the opening credits and seeing so and so as Delgado. I thought if I was ever on any show, I would want to be a one named character, right? Just for one episode.
We should legally change their names to Pete Matern as Delgado.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Pete Matern as Delgado. Latte for Pete Matern as Delgado.
Actually, I might just start using that. Be my screen name on anything.
So there were a couple stars in this, or future stars. I think the biggest one, lots of character actors, but the biggest one would probably be William Forsythe, who, if you don't know him by name, he is he and John Goodman are the 2 fugitives from Raising Arizona. I think that's the big.
That's all I know him.
That's his biggest role.
Yeah.
He was also the main villain in the in Firestorm. Remember, Kyle, that movie that starred Howie Long that we rented?
I do.
He was the main villain in Firestorm.
Thinking about Metal Storm for a minute.
No,
different storm altogether.
1998, Howie Long from the NFL tried to transition into action movies, and it was a movie where he was in a forest fire while villains were doing something, and he was the local something chief of fire, woodland fire police, something.
He just saved you an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, there you go. Me. I feel like I've seen an older movie that was like bad guys doing stuff during a big forest fire.
Well, it's a new one now with Angelina Jolie.
Just keeps coming back.
Yes, it does. Apparently, having an action movie and ratchet it up during a forest fire is an easy go-to.
Yeah.
So, Kyle, talk to me a little bit about this situation here that's the setup for the villains.
Okay, well, I got to admit, I might need help from both of you guys on this one, because I really... so here's what I pieced together. There were 2 convicts being transported from a courthouse, I'm assuming back to prison, like they just got out of trial.
Right.
One of them had a connection to a gun buyer, so their gang came and sprung them during the transport to get them back so that they could go make a drug deal in a remote town somewhere.
Whoa, you went way deeper than I did.
And that's pretty much, and then they had to take some hostages, and dude showed up.
I thought it was, there's a group called the Brotherhood,
right?
Which is like Hell's Angels or something.
And Wings is the only one who knew about him.
Yeah, which we can play that clip here in a second. But so like you said, there are people in a courthouse that are being broken out by members of their own gang, and they take hostages because people are getting married by JP.
Yeah, right.
And so they take the hostages and they escape. And then their master plan is to, which seems like it's very diehard, like specific, like, Swiss watches kind of thing, to get these other big cogs in their organization out of death row and to ultimately fly all of them to Nicaragua, all the heads,
right,
to where they can't be extradited.
Wait, why did they take the first hostages?
Because once they transported they're followed by the authorities, and then they go on that dead end mining road, and then
that was how they were going to get at. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, and so if you recall, they transferred to a school bus, and then it's leaving, going out the opposite way out of the dead end.
40 motorcycles.
Yes, and then Wings is storming down with the authorities, and then he's told, like, don't shoot. There's hostages. I think that's the only function they serve.
That's right.
Okay, so were the two guys that were sprung from the Brotherhood, or did the Brotherhood need them as a connection?
I thought they were part of the Brotherhood.
They weren't super nice to them, though. Remember, and they were dressed a little bit differently.
Yeah, and
I think they
Delgado
were working for them or something, and they'd gotten busted. And
yeah, and Delgado was clearly like in charge, but the guys that were springing were in charge of something as well.
Yeah.
I didn't follow that story, and I honestly
it made no sense.
Pay attention. I was just waiting for Wings to come back on screen.
Well, for me, the whole second half of the show was about the the dude in the tan suit with the salt pepper beard.
Yeah.
I
like that guy.
That was my guy. All I did was wait for him to keep coming back on.
So yeah, that's a good seg, because part of this plan involves a town called Puma, Arizona, which I guess this is all filmed around Florence, Arizona in real life. But they take over this very small town and use it as a base of operations for this whole having planes land, using Main Street as essentially an airstrip for these small planes. And they take over the sheriff's station to cut off this thing, and to also the sheriff's station has a bat phone that goes straight to the penitentiary, which is how they talk to the warden.
Right.
And the warden's wife and daughter live in this town of Puma, so they grab them as insurance to make sure this happens. This all sounds way more interesting than it is.
Yeah, no.
It's very much like in its execution, very much like an A-Team, like just random dudes who are clearly stunt actors holding fake machine guns on top of like awnings.
Yeah,
and,
it's pretty by the numbers.
One or two story, rooftops. It's very by the numbers. Yeah.
I mean, things that are interesting about it are the parts that don't make sense. Like, how did that many motorcycles come out of a school bus? Because it was a lot, right?
It's like a spider egg catching.
And then did they try to take the whole town hostage? Because it was a lot of people.
The entire town.
But then it was about 12 people.
It was 3,000 people, which in NBC budget is 12 people.
Union rules.
Yeah. So I struggled to be interested in the B story of the actual villains.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, the thing that I was doing for a lot of the show was, and I noticed this when I was a kid, and I liked it then, I like it now. If you watch the pilot of something, right, there's an opening montage during the credits, but they've only filmed one thing. And so every single thing in that montage you're about to see.
Yeah.
Right. You'll see it in the next hour. And so I just kept waiting for it. Oh, that's when that bridge blows up. That's when the weird van jumps over the creek, Yeah. That's when he knocks over the wall. I was just, kind of playing montage bingo for the whole thing.
Kyle, talk a bit about their motor vehicle situation, because that is a major, first of all, this was written by Anthony Spinner and Tony Ford. I'm assuming they're 12, based on this screenplay.
Yeah, it's what I would have written.
Kyle, describe their mode of transportation, which is a big selling point, apparently.
Every good ragtag team needs a super van. Like it's a requirement of the 80s.
Yeah.
This looked like an RV, and it looked like the A-Team's van and an RV put together into one unit. And the front had like a Star Trek door, so like every time it opened,
it made a Star Trek noise.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Oh, it was do it again. Do it. Make the sound. Every time. But when you walk
Kyle,
in,
you mean this?
Come on.
Slow down. We don't even know if it's friendly.
Where's Cobra?
So of course it's got bulletproof windows, and then the back is reinforced with 6 inches of steel, according to Captain Morgan. But I like it when
what would the drag be on a vehicle with 6 inches of steel on its walls?
Yeah, during the workout, when they first drive it, like I was like, that thing's gonna roll. Like, there's no way they got through that scene without them.
Yeah, they were whipping at like 85 miles per hour without using the brakes. Yeah, doing hairpin turns.
Like, how many times did they have to stop and tip it back up for the next take?
When you go into the side of it, it looks like a fancy RV. There's like a seat, and there's like a painting on the wall and some bunk beds. But the bunk beds, like if you lift up the bed, underneath is just firearms, strapped to the bottom, Uzis, handguns.
I love that there was a painting on the wall.
Yeah.
That was one of my notes too.
You got to be comfortable. But the real selling point is that the back is full of these motorbikes, these cherry red, super fast motorbikes. Each member of the team has them. They're all stacked up in there. So you've got your primary van. Also, you guys, they had their own airplane with a Command 5, their own jet, with the Command 5 logo on the tail.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, I mean, this was a heavily funded government project here.
Yeah, AIM had a lot to say about the patches.
Yeah, I like the patches too. I kind of want one.
She was just like, "Why is it on both shoulders in the same patch?"
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Oh, and I love this is also like the classic, like they're driving the van for the first time with 6-inch steel reinforced rear end, but it can go 80 miles an hour, and you get like the classic where they've sped up the film a little bit, so you can clearly see that they're really making this big beast move a little bit.
Right.
My God.
So yeah, let's listen to Wings talk about the Brotherhood a little bit when they're identified. So they all get these, when you go out to eat, like a double mountain brewery or something like that, and they're like, okay, the wait's about 20 minutes. Here's this. When this starts vibrating and flashing, come up to the front.
That's exactly
table.
what I thought of.
So they all get these, and it's like basically you have new housing in St. Louis. When this happens, something bad is, you're needed. So come to the base. So they all respond to this. It's interesting what they're all doing, by the way, too. Wings was watching a foreign film, eating popcorn, probably drunk.
I wanted
watching
to
a
know,
French,
is that a real movie?
like Criterion movie in the theater. I remember the demolition derby guy, the wheels guy, was coaching a flag football team.
Yep.
I forgot the psychiatrist. She was fencing.
She was.
And I don't remember what Blowy was doing.
He was in the art museum. He was sketching.
He was sketching some art.
Yep.
Right. Forgot about that little nuance. So here's where they all get together in the van and find out who the Brotherhood is.
Any idea what organization they belong to, Morgan?
Just a couple of guys looking at a life sentence and a name. The Brotherhood.
The Brotherhood. Well, Captain, sir, the Brotherhood is, it's an undertaker's dream. I mean, they're scattered inside and outside the walls of at least a dozen maximum security prisons. To become a member, you gotta kill one time. But more important, you gotta enjoy it. And you give them enough beer and money and, they'll knock off their mothers and have a party.
I wrote that line down. I was like, wait, what? What does that mean? Is that improvised?
He's like, he's waving a knife in Morgan's face while he's describing this.
Just to, as you do, while you're talking to your buddy, you just kind of make your point with your knife. Yeah, that happened. And the Brotherhood, like, when they rolled in, the only thing I could think of was the River Bottom Nightmare Gang.
Yeah.
That was 100%. Like, where's the eel in the back?
Yeah, right. The plan goes down well. They take over the sheriff's station. They call the warden and say, "We've got your daughter." They put all the townsfolk, all 15 of them, into the one cell in the sheriff's office. They hijack a plane. Everything's just going clicking. And then our team comes in. And again, it's just hard to pay attention here.
Yeah, well, it's just a lot of driving back and forth.
A lot of driving. They split up. They fractured into teams of 2 for a lot of it. So they were, like the demolitions guy who loves fine arts took the C4 explosive and made a Rodin's The Thinker out of it.
Full on Caddyshack.
Oh, yeah.
You just needed the voice.
Yep.
I'm trying to think what Wings did during this time. The psychiatrist and one of the other, the wheelman, go to the prison and try and meet with the 2 guys that are trying to spring out of jail and try and reason with them and say this is never going to work and it doesn't work. And basically what happens is they have a small Command 5 plane which flies over the town of Puma, and the demolitions guy draws, because he's an artist, he loves the arts, he draws a map of the way the city looks. So now they know what it looks like. That was one of those things where I was like, imagine this now with like Google Maps.
Yeah.
Like, right? If cell phones existed, smartphones existed, this would all be ridiculous. But they all study his shitty drawing of what the town looks like. They cook up this big plan and execute.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's they hype up that each of these members is just like got this special talent, and it's like each one of them has just got their talent, and they do this super lame attempt to put that talent into practice.
Yeah.
And so like the wheels guy, he doesn't even ever drive the van, but he gets to drive a Cadillac from one road.
You better let me drive.
Like that was his moment.
This car.
So that he could take the psychiatrist in to try to do her magic to talk to these 2 guys.
Fails miserably.
Yeah.
Although she does suss out that Wheelman's daddy references aren't real.
Right. The wheel guy always says, my daddy always said. And at one point she's like, yeah, I don't think you ever actually knew your dad. Just judging by how much you say that. And he's like, oh, damn.
Got me.
Don't tell the other four.
And that was it. Those were the only.
That's kind of it.
So, yeah.
I thought there was going to be a big knife fight with Wings, but there wasn't.
Yeah, he doesn't actually get to
do his thing.
Be a loner psycho that much. He's just he walks up behind Bill Forsyth with a hostage.
Yeah.
And grabs his gun away. And actually, I think I have.
That's actually an interesting scene.
Yeah, that's.
That was the twist. I just realized it. That was the twist. We were expecting him to go full blown psycho,
and
instead controlled his emotions. Like,
so he pulls the gun away from William Forsythe and pushes him up against the cell bars of the jail.
Yeah.
And then I think the wheelman's like, "Dude, don't kill him." Basically, I think we have that here.
Back off, soldier boy! Back off! Jack! Jacob's coming worth it, Jack!
I'm cool. All right, move. Come on, move.
So, yeah, the thing being that he, it's implied he has substance abuse issues. As the tension ratchets up, he grabs beers out of the mini fridge in the military van.
Why did they stop this?
Why did Morgan put beers in the fridge with an alcoholic member? But anyway, at one point he throws it away. Oh, there's also a really nice scene before this when they're actually approaching Puma to do the final thing, and he has this kind of showdown with Morgan about the pressure here.
Easy does it, Jack. Easy does it? A 16-year-old little girl, and you're telling me easy does it? We'll get her out. We'll get them all out. You know what's really irritating about you, Morgan? You're so damn sure about everything, aren't you? I have to be sure. Ah, come on, Morgan.
Look, what he means is that it's...
Hey, excuse me, all right? I know what he means. What he means if he starts having a few doubts about himself, stops being Napoleon, right? Then you're just like the rest of us. Well, I sure hope Puma is not your Waterloo.
And
that snap clap thing.
Wings did his thing that he does, which
that's right.
I wrote down here, I have to learn to do the snap clap thing.
Yeah. So that's added. I actually have been making a comp of when Wings does that in films.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh yes, it is a thing, and I've found like 4 more. So I'm gonna make a new comp.
That's a good idea.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the thing back when he didn't kill that guy, like that's the scene. Isn't that the same scene where he comforts the traumatized 16-year-old? And I just remember thinking, and he's like, "Look at me, look at me."
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, that's not gonna make her feel better. Just like you're not the right guy.
Yeah.
For
yelling, calm down.
Yeah.
Doesn't he do like a rough petting of the face?
Yeah, and at the end, after they've restored order, she runs up to him and the daughter of the warden, and she's like kissing him on the cheeks. He's clearly kind of weirded out, but he kisses the top of her head to make it non-sexual.
Right.
And he pets her like a dog, and he clearly looks like uncomfortable with the entire exchange.
Yep. Yeah.
You guys, watching Morgan run around in the street with that Uzi was so unbelievably awkward.
I know.
Like,
he kept holding his arm up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thing he would do where he'd pop his arm up in the air like ta-da. And that thing that I loved is that they backed the van through the front door of the of the sheriff's office, and then he jumps out of the van and then dives through a window back out immediately.
That's right.
He could have just stayed outside, I think, because if that's where you wanted to get, there was a shorter path.
That was rad.
That was pretty rad.
So I mean, this ends in a big, massive shootout, which, I grew up in the 80s and all, but I get completely bored with shootouts. I get bored with car chases too. Maybe it's because of growing up in the 80s and being not very macho. I don't know.
I think it's just getting older. Like reminds me, I was super ready for this. It's like, here we go, right? This should be good. And I was super bored. And it's reminded me, like, I watched an episode of the original Battlestar Galactica maybe 4 months ago, and I was so sad that I was so bored because the best part of that show as a kid is the ships flying around. Yeah. And now you watch it, you're like
recycled.
It just feels like watching Scooby-Doo. It's like this. It's the same shot of the same ship.
Yeah,
it's the same thing, basically. Guys shooting at each other.
Yeah, I was surprised some people actually got shot. Unlike A-Team,
right?
Some of these Brotherhood dudes that were on the rooftops with Uzis and machine guns actually got shot,
and they murdered the guard.
Yeah, there were some deaths.
Yeah,
so I was surprised that there was actually a consequence.
Yeah, I was really hoping to see more of the tan suit guy because every scene he was in, he was actually kind of menacing.
Menacing, yeah.
Right.
He's not Anton Chigurh, but he's
no, exactly. But did he?
Not No Country for Old Men.
So sorry to jump to the end, but okay. So in the end, right?
This is the end.
Okay, he drives away. Well, there's so much. Depends how deep you want to go.
Right.
They blow up the bridge, and so his car dives into the little ditch, and then he gets out of the car and runs away. But they don't make a big deal about him getting away. So I was, but then they never tied up.
He even got away.
Exactly. So did he get away, or did they just forget to show the part where he got caught? Right, because they killed Delgado, and then they say, "Okay, take care of everyone in the jet. I'll go back and tell the town it's over." No mention of him again. So I was like, "Is he going to come back?"
I would think that he would essentially become the Cobra Commander of the Brotherhood, which I would be down with because he was my favorite part of the villains.
Yeah, but then there was such a kind of they should have made a little bit more of a point of it, I guess, if he was going to be if he got away.
Right. But I mean, maybe not with a fist shake. Maybe it's like those.
That's fist shake. That was done it.
It's the little things where it's like we missed something, and then like episode 4, which never happened, it would be like
remember that guy we forgot to show
here's him hiring mercenaries to whatever. He's actually targeting somebody. He's targeting the psychiatrist, and that would have actually been cool if there was like an arc,
right?
But that never would have happened.
Yeah. Well, let's pick this up. I bet we can pick this up.
We should find that guy. I want to know who that character was.
Yeah, he was good. I was a fan of that dude, but I did not see who he was. But this did have I don't know how you say his name. It's either Kin Fori or Kin Foray, but the guy that's the main character in Romero's Dawn of the Dead was an air traffic controller for one random scene. Oh, that's kind of weird.
Oh God, right?
Yeah,
I forgot. I was like, when was there an air traffic control scene? I remember now.
One of the guys that's like the henchman when they first get the guys out of the courthouse, and they're going is Herbert West's partner in Reanimator. Bruce Abbott is the actor's name. He played Dean Cain or Dan Cain in the first 2 Reanimator films. He was in this same year he was in Reanimator, by the way.
Right.
So this did have some people in it. Also, the guy that plays the warden, it's like Peter Jason or something like that.
I totally recognized him, but I don't know from what.
He's in Carpenter films all the time. I think he was the leader of like the Resistance and They Live. I think he's like the dude that turns Roddy Piper on the fact to like come back with me.
Wow.
Like, these glasses, try these on. I love that guy.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely I watched this expecting to see lots of things that I saw, and it was satisfying. Like some of the rules of that kind of television are there, which is, when you shoot a car, it explodes. I mean, every time you can't shoot a car without it blowing up.
Yeah, the nitro.
Yeah, and then what else did I notice? AIM called out that all the training scene, whole thing shot from the knees down, like shot after shot.
Oh my God,
boots and knees, and she's like, "What's going on with that?"
Classic. Makes it feel faster.
Military porn.
Classic.
Wow, did not notice that.
Zip line was the way in zip line.
Yeah. I was wondering what that demonstrated. Ability to hold a thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's what random people do for fun in Hawaii, but that's their training. And then then seeing the training. Let's talk about training, actually. Like when the Morgan, he's waving everyone, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. And then he turns and leaves, and then the thing he was leaning on blows up.
Oh.
I was like, wait, why were you... What?
Yeah.
So if these guys aren't fast enough, I'm dead. Like, I just think there's high stakes training.
So how do we account for the fact that this is actually a Christmas movie?
Oh, right.
Because there's Christmas decorations in every office.
Right.
There's a Santa Claus up on the telephone pole in the last scene.
Yeah, and the fake "I'm busy" note that they put on the door said "Merry Christmas."
Yeah. That the tan suit guy put up to be
God.
Yeah.
So was this intended to be a mid-season pickup to where they're like, let's order a bunch of pilots, and if something's failing in the fall, we'll have something to program for December.
Yeah.
And that will be, we'll order like 10 episodes to get us to spring and decide if we want to do a second season.
Yeah.
But it didn't even get beyond that.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
You guys just blew my mind. I didn't even realize that this was Christmas. Oh my God.
Because it's not like Puma was a big town. It's not like you can film here, but we love Christmas and we're not changing anything.
We're not taking
that's a deal breaker.
Yeah. I mean,
we're not taking our decorations down.
Like 15 different businesses are going to have to do something that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to just know. Yeah.
What other kind of 80s stuff do we need to cover? I feel like we've walked all over this thing, but
yeah,
I could be convinced.
I mean, there was the Buckaroo Banzai walking together scene at the end.
Right. And a clear setup by Morgan.
They're a team now.
So, yeah. I forgot what the final line is, but it's like something, he says like
roll.
next time.
Let's roll.
Yeah. That was one thing too. But there was a setup where it's like next time I'll drive or something like that. And then the wheel guy says, it's like my daddy always said, and Morgan says, let's roll. And he's like, how'd you know? And then they start doing a Reservoir Dogs walk abreast down the streets of Puma.
Yeah, right. That's right. I'm trying to think of what else. I feel like bad guys were I like the way bad guys were in the 80s better than I like them now. Like, Delgado, right at the end, right? His gun is down there, and he goes for it, and they shoot it, and he's like, and he kind of gives this like, smiles like, oh, you got me, but he goes for it again, like, just unrepentant thugs.
Yeah,
as a kid,
thuggery.
I felt like the same way as a kid, you have to be careful of quicksand.
Right.
You have
it's everywhere.
You have to be careful of thugs. Right. I mean, you know them when you see them.
Yeah.
And you've learned how they are. Right. And they're very much like Delgado, or the same like 48 Hours, the bad guy in 48 Hours. Right. They're just rotten in a shitty way that bad guys just aren't now. Really. There's a little bit of complexity to them that doesn't need to be there.
Right. We got
backstory you don't need.
Who's that Russian playwright who said the thing about the red motorcycles? He's like, if you bring red motorcycles in the first act,
you have to
you have to use them, which they do.
Yeah, which they do.
They all spring out of the back of the super van and chase down Delgado.
Yeah, that's right.
Chekhov's.
That's Chekhov's.
That's
right. Rule of motorcycles. Yeah. So watching this with AIM was great because she watched me watched me watch it is really what she did, knowing, fourth grade Pete would have been, all in.
Yeah.
And so when things would happen, like when they reveal the motorcycle, she's like, okay, so what do you think about those motorcycles? First thing she asked. And it was funny. I was like, well, I haven't seen enough of them yet. We're only seeing them from the front, so I can tell you later.
But they did the tell don't show, and they're like, these are the fastest.
Right.
Like the psychiatrist is like, I don't know if I even know how to drive one of these. Like, no, you can. I saw the way you drove the whatever. You could totally.
Yeah.
And these could beat any cop car, whatever.
Yeah.
She was pleased.
Right. Actually, and then she saw some of the other movie, the Norm Mailer movie with me, but she don't think she saw much of it. So like the first scene with Wings when he's drinking the scotch and milk, she's like, after the scene, she's like, is he always like that? First thing she said, I'm like, yes, that's the thing.
Yeah. That's what makes
Wings the energy, amazing, right? And the second scene, she's like, wow, he's kind of demonic. I'm like, yeah, that's the word.
Yep.
In the best way.
Yeah, you never feel shorted with, when you pay Wings to be in a project.
Right.
He never shows up and phones it in.
No.
Which I say every time on these things.
No, and you're always watching him.
Yep.
Like definitely, if he's in the scene, you're watching him.
Yep. So I
was disappointed that he wasn't in this more. Like,
that was kind of my takeaway too. Was like needed more Wings for sure.
Typically, my complaint about anything I see with him in it.
Yeah.
So it's a little. I didn't see some of the cliche stuff I expected to see, like based on Dukes of Hazzard and A-Team.
Well, they did jump a creek.
They did, but I was expecting some more of the slow-mo, like the dude jumping out of something as it explodes and like really slow-mo.
Yeah.
Like they didn't milk a bunch of the stunts like they do in those shows.
No, and there was no comic chase like bystander. Whoa, no fruit stand got knocked over.
Plate glass guys carrying plate glass across.
Yeah,
the street.
exactly. All those things could have been in there.
Or Town Drunk.
There was room
rubbing
for
his
it.
eyes.
Yes.
Super van.
Exactly. This is probably on the editing report somewhere.
I feel like maybe they actually approached this to try and be a notch above something for 12-year-old boys, something that your uncle from Vietnam could appreciate.
Yeah,
who lives in the basement and has issues. They can watch it together.
Right.
It's like a family. It was meant for. It's a Christmas. Let's get together.
Is there anything we need to talk about before we move into final thoughts?
No. Well, maybe you guys can help me out. I have a quote in here that just says, like Ulysses S. Grant said. Do you guys, it's ringing any bells?
What did he say?
I don't know. It's all I have.
Sounds like something Wheelman would have said.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I remember that too. I forgot to write that down. But it definitely didn't seem real.
Nope. I mean, I did feel like, wait a minute, they sprung some guys and took hostages so they could go to a town and take other hostages so they could get these two guys out of jail so then they could just leave.
It's a Russian nesting doll of hostages and escapes.
And the whole goal is to just leave. And then towards the end, Delgado's like, you know what? I'm just going to run this show. I could just go. I'm like, wait, you waited till now?
Yeah, I know.
Like, you did all this and then you decided at this point it's too much effort.
Yeah. You got Serpentor and Cobra Commander out of jail.
Yeah.
And that went bad, so you're just kind of like, I don't know, I'm Destro. I can do this.
Yeah, I could do this.
I should have just been doing this the whole time.
Yeah, it's like, well, was it important or not?
Yeah, it wasn't important at all.
No.
Any other questions, Kyle? I thought we were waiting.
No, thanks.
Yeah.
Command 5, help desk. Let's do final judgment.
All right.
Let's start with Pete. Is this cool or is this trash, and support your position?
I'm going cool. I mean, I don't know that they earned it, but it's still cool.
Okay.
Right? Because if you just put those ingredients together and make that kind of show, I will like it. Like I was like, oh, you had me at Parachute and Demolition Derby and Machine Guns. Okay. Like that's all you have to do. So I mean, I'm just say the bar, if you choose the right genre, the bar for cool is not real high.
True.
Right? And that's what they did.
True. Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
This is true.
You didn't sleep last night, did you?
No, I didn't. I was up tossing and turning all over this. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because the first half of this is fucking cool.
Yep.
And the second half of this is trash. And you know what? If I have to come down with a final judgment on this one, I'm gonna skew towards the trash side of this. I think that they had an awesome setup. They had all the right pieces. And like they just like completely dropped the ball when they got to Puma. You know what I mean? Just drop this whole thing.
So that's
that's it. Yep.
But do you think it was a story like reading the, if you had read that script, would you be like, oh, this is the part where I'm bored? Or is it like a directing problem where like, oh, if the shootout scene had been good, right? Would it have carried it for you, or is it just like, I don't even care if the action is good at that point?
Yeah, I didn't care that the action was good, and I also had no idea what was going on. Like, I was so lost.
That did not help.
I was so lost.
I'm torn between the both of you. I feel like this was essentially written as two scripts, the first two episodes of the show, and then fused to get Frankenstein together to make a pilot movie to sell it. And I love the first episode, first 45 minutes, and I did not care for the second 45 minutes at all. So I don't know what to say here, but ultimately it was cool to see Wings in a cliche paint by numbers, mid-80s actioner, no-brainer thing. God, man, I'm so torn.
The Airwolf syndrome.
Yeah.
The pilot of Airwolf. You had everything, but then it really dragged. And when I was told I had to go to bed, I was like, okay. Yeah. I didn't fight it.
Okay, so I'm going to land on the side of it's cool, only because that he had a weird drink choice. He had a switchblade that shot out of his coat when he needed it, and he was the antisocial, loose, cannon, the short fuse guy of the team, and maybe we could have seen that. There's an Earth 2 where this went for like 6 seasons, and he had an arc, and he developed, and he became.
Oh, he had a ward right there. Obviously, he would have a kid he had to take care of. There's no question that would happen, right? Right, and then maybe he's like wants to join. Like
Coburn.
season 6, the kid's growing up, and he wants to join Command 5, and Wings is like, "No, kid, I didn't pull you out of
I
hellhole
chose
and
this
raise
life.
you.
You didn't choose this."
Exactly. Maybe we should do that.
No, I just mean, seriously, it is a coin toss for me, but I land on cool because of those little nuances, and because he did get to chew the scenery a little bit and earn his pay, and I didn't think that. Well, the guy that played Nick Kowalski, John Matuszek, he chewed the scenery too. But I don't know. Wings stood out. So I'm going to say it's cool, worth checking out. I would say it's one of those things that you probably want to have like solitaire up on your phone, or if you're going to watch this on YouTube,
or just stop it halfway through and know you're done,
or turn it off at the 45-minute mark at the because this has commercial breaks where there's hard stops for ads. So. It doesn't get better once the mission starts.
I think it stops as soon as they as soon as the motorcycles come out of the bus. It's over. I think that's it. The end. They got away.
You're satisfied.
A much darker ending. They got away with the bride. Never found her.
Yeah, I would even say
dead as an Oreo. That's the Cormac McCarthy version.
I like that. And there was a baby tree.
Yeah, it's just
Blood
like
Meridian.
a bird picking at their bones.
Judge Holden was in an outhouse.
Yeah.
God damn. I like that version.
Oh, yeah.
So watch the first 45 minutes. Fast forward through up until like the last, I think, literally 5 minutes. That was the other thing was I kept watching the runtime. It's an hour and like 32 minutes. And it's like an hour and 25 minutes. Like, dude, this is almost over.
Yeah.
Like, nothing is happening.
Yeah.
And then it all just comes down really fast. So watch the first 45 minutes and the last 5 minutes, and you got it. So, yeah, it's cool because it has Wings in it. But if that were not Wings, if that were the guy from My Two Dads, the non-Paul Reiser guy from My Two Dads, I'd say don't watch it.
I mean, I feel like there's spin-off shows they should have written. Like, what happened in the marriage of that warden and his wife? Like, right? That phone call was pretty dark. He's like, I don't know what to tell you, honey. She's like, well, you got to tell me something because they're going to kill me. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, there was some shit there. And then, of course, the tan suit guy who got away, obviously, he's got a whole thing. Like, I would have followed both those things and maybe just given up on Command 5.
Yeah.
Command 5 nights.
Well, Cormac McCarthy has come up twice. So I think that the tan suit guy is definitely an Anton Chigurh.
Yeah, you're right.
No Country for Old Men guy. And I would love to see where he went.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to think it's like he starts a new brotherhood.
Yeah.
Or he goes solo, or he starts a cult.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's weird to me ultimately, like final thoughts here, like watching this. And of course, growing up in this, like this is my language of TV.
Right, exactly.
It's so weird to me to go, yeah, but then there's also True Detective. Like we grew and became so sophisticated over the last 30 years. Like it's just insane. Like that's even the same thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just it's weird that this existed. Like I was joking earlier, like this was written by two 12-year-olds because they had a bulletproof van with a hidden gun. The whole thing's ridiculous. And this came into everybody's house.
Yeah.
If you had ABC or NBC or whatever on that night, you saw this. Yeah. And people that got paid hundreds of thousands of dollars were paid to feed this to you, and you were expected to just go, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I loved Dukes of Hazzard.
I loved it. God, I loved it so much. My parents were like, no, you don't. And it's like, yes, I do. They're like, you don't want to watch this. I'm like, yes, I do. They said the same thing about Chips. They were wrong, 0 for 2 on what's good.
Yeah.
Were they?
Yeah.
Have you watched it as an adult? Have you watched an episode?
It's unwatchable.
Of Dukes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, God, at some point, I think even I rented the first season, like on some physical media at some point back in the day.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, that was on for how many seasons? Yeah, it was on so long that the star said, fuck, pay us twice as much.
Yeah.
And like, well, okay, coin Vance, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Like, it was that popular.
Yeah.
And those were not all kids.
No.
Those are not all kids jerking off to Daisy. There was adults. I've talked to people who were adults then. Friends, people like our age as dad. Like, I love that show.
Well, Hee Haw was a show too. There's all kinds of people.
Yeah, but was that Hoyt Axton or what's his name? Who's the main dude? Yeah, isn't it Hoyt?
No, Roy.
Filigree. Roy. Who's Hoyt Axton? Am I making people up?
No, that's a name.
Okay.
No, you're gonna look and you're like, oh, I wasn't far wrong. Is what's gonna happen. Let's see it autocorrects even. He's a guitarist.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that
he was
guy.
on Hee Haw. That's what I'm talking about, motherfuckers.
What's his name?
Yeah, I liked him.
Look at that album cover. Wow.
He was one of the main Hee Haw dudes.
Yep.
The big guy.
How'd we get here? I think I took us here, but I don't know why. I don't remember.
Oh,
because
it was also a TV
Hee Haw
show.
was super popular, but I was trying to say, like, Hoyt Axton was a sick musician.
So there was something there.
Like, yeah. Look, the clip of him on The Odd Couple playing some classical piece of music on like a fiddle, but not like a
ends
fiddle.
With
like
me having
plucking.
to go start watching Hee Haw, I'm going to be upset.
Okay,
with you.
sorry. But like, I hate Hee Haw and Hee Haw's stupid. The jokes are terrible and blah blah. But like there was music in it that was really good. The music was good, and there were great stars who appeared on it. What was I talking about?
So I really just derailed us.
And
God, what the hell happened to this thing? I'm really curious as to like. You've really got me thinking about this. Like the second half of this, maybe there was like 2 or 3 episodes, and they just cut this thing together into some weird mishmash. Like, how do you go from making that much sense in the first 45 minutes, to just falling apart?
It felt like it knew what it was and where it was going.
Yeah,
as predictable as it was, it was confident in the first half, and then just.
Yeah. I'm 99% certain that this was the way you did this, so that you made a pilot movie. If it got picked up in syndication, it could be cut into 2 halves, so it could air in reruns as 2 different episodes. Yeah. So I think that was the plan. Like they wrote it this way on purpose. Is my idea.
Oh my god. Okay.
Because I'm sure if we go back to like Knight Rider or whatever, I'm sure the pilot movie's the same way, where it's like this is clearly delineated into 2 halves.
I saw that when it aired too.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw Automan. I liked Automan a lot because I saw Tron. Remember Automan?
I don't remember Automan.
I don't remember Automan.
Really?
Not at all.
It was a everybody seems to like Tron, which is not true. And they made a TV show where a computer programmer had the software that came out, and he had a little thing called Cursor that was like his little buddy, and he was played by like Desi Arnaz Jr. or something. It was totally random, but I loved it. It was that same year that Manimal was on the air. That was a year where they really tried some bold ideas and they did not land.
Wow, it's very, very Tron.
No,
Yeah.
it's
No, I never heard of this one. Huh. Missed it. I would have liked it, I'm sure.
I'm sure you can watch
Unlike
it on
Manimal.
on the YouTubes.
I was like, I don't care about animals. I want guns, computers.
Thank you guys for joining me on this special episode. I'm probably going to do at least one more. I think I have one planned out. Someone from Rogue Riffers reached out and said he would love to be involved. He did one a couple years ago, a really bad movie that we did with John Travolta's brother Joey in Wings. It's Cops. Yeah, expect one more episode coming out, but that'll probably do it for Wings Hauser month. You guys have anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I had a blast. Thank you.
Pete, thanks for driving over for no real reason.
Oh, there was a reason. We'll find out.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you have a good Wings Hauser month. For That's Cool, That's Trash, I'm Matt Howell.
I'm Pete.
I'm Kyle.
You folks out there, stay trashy.
That's trash.
It's garbage, folks.
Leonardo da Vinci. He's a big wheel, wasn't he?
He practically invented it.
He did? Well, then, my big friend, He's my man.
Hey! Hey, why don't you two go find a little sandbox you can play in, all right? Because right now you remind me of a real bad hangover.